Kamen Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Welcome to another Dawson's Top 5. This time I'm going to do Top 5 Best Anniversary Series. This is Toku Anniversary Series, not just regular ones, encompassing Power Rangers, Super Sentai, and Rider, which are all on the contenders for this. I'm also going to be doing a worst list, but I know there's other series like Ultraman and certain things, but this is obviously what I've seen, so I can't really vote things that I haven't seen before, so that makes sense. And it's going to be kind of a weird hodgepodge because some of these series are intended to be full-on anniversary series with returning cameos and characters that transform into previous characters, and other ones were more regular season with various kinds of homages. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. Just as usually where I do honorable mentions, as far as honorable mentions, I mean, there was like Forever Red and Once a Ranger, which were part of Overdrive and Wild Force. I don't think either season overall was like overtly, hugely anniversary tied, except for the elements that Overdrive got from BoKage, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I thought both those anniversary specials were enjoyable. For Wild Force, I did especially enjoy how the natural flow happened between the Time Force team up with them already knowing Wes and Eric. So some of the things on both of these lists won't be full-on anniversary series, much like Wild Force and Overdrive, but I did want to mention that both of those are great team-ups, and I thought were good celebrations of the anniversary for 10 and 15. Once a Ranger still remains my personal favorite. Coming in at number 5, we're going to start with a weird one, which is Dobutsu Sentai Zyuohger, which was, for the most part, a standalone series that really had nothing to do with the anniversary other than them putting 40th anniversary on it, except really for, I mean, there was a couple different small things they did, like they did that little mini comedy video thing where they had other previous actors returning, which was kind of fun, but the core thing they did to celebrate the anniversary was the team up with Gokaiger. And so this is kind of weird. I think you have Ninja and Zyuohger both kind of celebrated the anniversary of 40th in a way, so they both had anniversary elements, but I overall preferred Zyuohger as a show. It's not my personal favorite or in my top or anything, but I thought it was an okay show. There was stuff I liked about the concepts. I still do like most of the designs, just referring it to as the show itself. But in terms of what Zyuohger or Ninja did for the anniversary, I thought the Gokaiger team-up was great. It's still probably actually one of my more favorite team-ups. Like, it was really cool to see the Gokaigers again, just to see the return of the characters. There was lots of cool action with that, lots of cool entrances with their da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da music playing, and I thought it tied really nicely to almost this passing of the torch of like, yeah, you're worthy of becoming the next Super Sentai. Not to mention it was funny that literally Marvelous had to come in and advance Zyuohger's plot for them because they were so stupid and slow. Coming in at number 4 is Kamen Rider Decayed. This series is definitely a mess. I do enjoy it though. I mentioned this in my Decayed or Geo video. It's kind of one of those shows that's actually a mess that I kind of enjoy watching, and I felt that inherently its setup didn't create as many questions as Geo, establishing the alternate universes rather than trying to act like everything's in a continuity and having all these clashing logic bits. But I think it worked as an anniversary series for me because it also works as a good entry-level series because you're sort of getting a taste of all the different writers and characters, but without spoiling anything if you haven't watched Rider yet, and also you don't have to worry about not feeling impacted by a return because it's not the actual return, and I kind of liked that. So it was kind of like almost having your cake and eating it too. But then when they did have actual cameos, I thought it hit harder. As I mentioned in that video, it was really cool to all of a sudden see Kenzaki because we had been so conditioned to seeing these alternate actors that all of a sudden it hit. Unfortunately, it did have a lot of mess with it too and never resolved itself at stuff, but I think it was still kind of an interesting and fun to watch anniversary series because you're getting that celebration, but you're not necessarily ruining anything if you haven't already seen the previous series. And at number 3 is Kamen Rider Geo. You know that I've had a very rocky relationship with this. It's like a bad ex-wife, basically. But I will give credit where credit's due. I do appreciate the fact that they did eventually acknowledge the alternate universes for Rider in general, which is a personal side note. But in the second half, it did do a really good job at celebrating the anniversary aspects. The tributes were very well done, both in terms of getting actors back and sort of doing epilogue-y stuff, hitting emotional beats from the series, and even tying in certain themes and aspects of the show within Geo itself that made the episodes, even outside of the returning characters, feel like an homage to that, and they even got some of the music back. So even if the series was kind of clunky for me overall, there was definitely at least a degree of effort in the second half to bringing back characters and honoring those stories, as well as I have to acknowledge they did do a lot of stuff. I mean, we got the Rider Time stuff, we got the movies, so even though it's not my favorite, I can acknowledge that it was some good stuff in terms of anniversary celebration for those that enjoy that. Number 2 on my list may be a bit of a controversial pick, and I would say objectively, if I was making this list without my personal bias, Geo would be number 2 in terms of celebrating anniversaries, but for my personal list, it's BoKager. I have a soft spot for BoKager in general. I just like this series. It's in my top 5 personally, so there's that bias. But since we've been sort of hammered with all of these returns, ever since Decayed and Gokaiger, they really haven't stopped. Like, we're always getting returns movies. So I've mentioned a lot that I've kind of become desensitized to it, and I'm kind of upset by that because team-ups used to get me really excited because it was such a rare occurrence, and now it's like, oh, a team-up, must be Tuesday. I've really grown to appreciate anniversary series or celebrations that were a little bit more subtle, and BoKager basically was a standalone series, but the core celebration was BoKager versus Super Sentai, and I kind of missed that style, and it made it seem more special at the time. Now we get random returns all the time because, like, whoever picked up the phone. But I liked the idea of the current anniversary Sentai teaming up with sort of a greatest hits team, and I liked the way that they did that in the Sentai Anniversary book and Aqua Red and stuff like that. And I thought it was a cool standalone way to have a season that's not bogged down by anniversary celebrations, but then you have this one specific team up for it. But they also did something really cool and subtle where a lot of the monster designs were based off of previous mecha from Super Sentai history. I thought that was super cool, and that's why it made my number 2, because I like the idea of us doing something like that in the future. So instead of just having a party every day about the anniversary, you do your standalone team up, or maybe a couple different specials if you want, but then you have something like that, like the homages to the monsters was a really cool and more subtle anniversary celebration that I thought that was just a little bit more subtle, and I think we could use some of that nowadays. And that's why it's just for me personally, because of my taste, even though I know a lot of people won't agree with me. Number 1 for me is obviously not Ultra, Super Mega Force. I'm just kidding. It's Gokaiger. I actually have a separate video I almost want to do about that in the future that we'll see just about Gokaiger itself as an anniversary. But this series can often be overrated. I don't disagree. It's not perfect, especially during Super Mega Force when people were disappointed. To be honest with you guys, the Gokaiger fans got obnoxious. No offense. But all that being said, I still think this was the strongest done anniversary because I think it had a great balance between celebrating the anniversary as well as feeling like its own show. It had a problem with weak villains and the plot wasn't always the greatest, but I still felt like, I'm not saying the show necessarily would have been as good maybe, but if you were to take out Gokaiger from the anniversary and just make it its own show, I felt it stood more on its own, whereas other anniversary series feel just more like a vehicle to celebrate it, where I think they did a better job of balancing it as a show itself, as an anniversary show. Not to mention the characters, I think has the most likable cast of anniversary characters, where I felt like I legitimately got to know them and like them, and I felt like we got a decent amount of time getting to know each of their personal stories. So I thought it was the most well-balanced at actually being a decent show as well as a great anniversary show. But that is my list. What is your guys' personal picks for your favorite anniversary series? I'd like to know about that, and if there's some from other series like Ultraman 2, feel free to list that because I don't have as much experience with that. Anyway, that's about it for this one. Until next time, don't forget to climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for all my videos. Thanks guys, Kamen Rider, signing out.